Okay, Rebel King, how to build an atomic bomb. So, based on yesterday's work on reinforced steel, we learned that you can create black hole energy inside reinforced steel. If you make sure that the outer casing of the steel is strong enough, the entropy freezes inside, creating reinforced steel, tempered steel, which is energy captured and existing and coming from somewhere. So then we anchored it to the planet, you remember, and that anchored it relative to time, and that was slowing our time, creating the parasitic energy that is actually powering the reinforced steel. So it's a parasitizing system. So today's one is we're going to look at how we can build an atomic bomb from that, and using shell theory to membrane theory. And it's very simple. When you put your square billet through at the beginning, you make sure that you've got a very weak material there. The balance between the materials in the initial construction of the atomic structure of the steel as it's set up between the carbon and the iron is essential to get that right. You then extrude it through down to the size that you need it to from atomic fuse, and then you've gone through the heating process. Okay, so at the point where you're then about to quench it, everything's set up ready to go. The pressured cell structure in the center is ready to expand. Remember, this is all at 1200 degrees C, and you're ready about to cool the outer surface, which is set to go as cold as possible, as fast as possible, to accelerate its rate of temperature change. So bang, we quench it. Immediately what happens is that steel outer forms a shell, and it's colder than the inside. Entropy says that the hot should move to the cold, so it's going to heat it's going to move through that. All the temperature's going to even up to the hot temperature first, and then it will descend to the cold. But it can't, because the rate of temperature change in that initial shock, that first moment in time, and literally moment, 10 to the minus 34 seconds, is a shock wave inside. And what happens is that obsidian, perlite forms as a glass membrane. It's a volcanic gas that forms. And from that gas under pressure, it forms perlite, the volcanic gas work, the obsidian, the natural glass. And so that glass is now a piece of matter that's been created from the energy inside. And so now you have a cold layer and an obsidian, a really hot obsidian layer, right against each other, creating a zero entropy zone that it cannot cross. And because you've got the glass that's been created, the heat is reflected back to the center. Now, bearing in mind this is a quantum scale, and so the temperature motion is quantized. It moves in it, from our perspective, it moves in a step, right? It's got to create a three-dimensional space in which to move. You can't. It's the three-body problem. One body must be three bodies, not two. It goes through a two-body phase into the three-body, so it's got hot, colder, space to move. Yeah. And the only place that it can create that space inside that system that's been created for the atomic fuse is at the center, where it puts that little dent into space-time, tapping the energy. Now, immediately what happens is it freezes, because that's where there's a colder temperature there at last. It's found one. It's the outside of the shell. The two things are connected. The center and the outside of the shell, the fuse, are connected, and so it freezes. And because it's frozen, it now expands massively. The obsidian obsidian as a gaseous form, it expands massively under temperature changes. Boom, it expands. If you've set the initial setup with the steel to be exactly balanced to the moment of obsidian construction inside, it'll break through this time round, and it blows the fuse up. So you can see this is simultaneous time in action, because all this happens in one go, because you want it to just press the button and go bang, but there's a reflective motion before it goes bang. There's time that's been stolen. It's time corrupted. Yeah, so off we go. It goes shell, hard shell, obsidian glass, temperature shift reversed, entropy reversed, Quantized temperature motion to center. Center must expand to allow temperature motion. Expands into space-time. Space-time exists on the outside of the shell. The temperature is colder. Immediately the center freezes. As it freezes, it expands massively, breaking the glass and breaking the careful balance between the outer steel shell that's been put there and exploding. And for the moment that the thing breaks the fuse, reality is exposed to black hole energy. Nice work. And there's a nuclear explosion. And exactly the same thing is happening inside reinforced steel, but you just make sure the outer casing is really solid, and so you trap the energy inside the steel. Now, I've just told you that information, and I worked it out by watching YouTube videos and spending time kicking around and thinking about things and not being distracted by bollocks. And I can now design an atomic fuse. Brilliant mind. So can you welcome the future now, please, you motherfuckers? And let's start.